What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. I'm Mike Sparks. This week, I'm chatting with Luke Biasi. Luke is entering his fourth year with the Hounds. Hard to believe. And he had tons of insight into preseason approaches, advice he'd give the new players about Bob, and he gives us a surprise tease that you're going to have to stay tuned for. I was not expecting it. Mind blown. After that, I'm going to be joined by Josh, Steve, and Peter Betcher to get their thoughts on everything going on this week, as well as another special announcement about coverage that we're providing this year. Tons of stuff going on. As always, you can find us on all the social platforms, including YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And we always appreciate a like and subscribe wherever you're getting this. You can email thoughts and questions to mongols3@gmail.com. And with that, on with the show. Luke, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, according to your Instagram, you've had a pretty eventful off-season. What all you been up to?
So this offseason I actually did a lot of traveling. Just with the season, it's a long 10 months straight through. So I went over to Bali, Indonesia, actually. One of my best friends growing up, he's been there for 3 years now. So I went out there to visit him. He knows the ropes of things, so he showed me around. We had a great time. And then I also went to Puerto Rico for New Year's. So that was a lot of fun, relaxed on the beach. It was nice to reset and then start getting ready for preseason.
Are you more of a beach guy, or are you more of like a hiking woods kind of guy?
I like both a lot, but if I had to pick, I'm probably going beach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's awesome.
South. I like the heat. I like the ocean. I like the sand. I like it all.
That's awesome. We were talking to DG last week, and I'm glad, especially after the season that you guys had, that you guys get a chance to really do sort of like a hard reset, get back to
Exactly.
everything.
It was nice.
What just out of curiosity, what does your off-season regimen look like from a training perspective? Because obviously you guys have 8-9 months where you're going hard. You and I have talked about recovery before and sort of
Yep.
what that looks like. So what does the off-season look like for you from a training standpoint?
Yeah, it is very nice to have that amount of months off in a row. I would it's almost too long. So for the first, 2 weeks, I'll want to do absolutely nothing. Just let my body put itself back together, try to still eat well and take care of myself, be active, not just laying around doing nothing. So then my body can just kind of get back together again. And then I almost wish it wasn't so long because I don't want to take that much time off. But then I'll start lifting again. I'll start going for light runs. It's just ball work, playing pickup with people back home if I ever feel like it, or if it ever comes up. And then when I really start to get back into the mode of things, it's probably like a month out from preseason. So that'll consist of making sure I'm starting with like strength and power, like lifting, and then as I'm getting closer to the season, I'm doing more like explosive reps and lower reps. And then just trying to make sure I'm doing fitness every day, working out every day in the gym, and then ball work every day. So trying to do that every day of the week, weekend off, and just do it for that for 4 weeks straight, and I get in pretty good shape. And then you got the whole preseason, which is it's just 6 weeks preseason too, so you have time there. But that's usually what I try to do.
Nice. So you've been bouncing all over the world. You're now back in Pittsburgh. The team has released pics of you helping to ref at the Invite Combine.
Yeah.
How is, from your perspective, what's the Invite Combine been like so far?
They hosted one in December, and then they hosted one this past weekend. So I think what we're going for this year, I think we only have maybe 15 or 16 signed guys. So I think they're trying to bring in 10 to 15 on trial, and we're maybe hoping to sign 4, 5, or 6 of them. But yeah, reffing, it was fun. It's a lot harder to ref than I thought. You always see it and you see the calls, but once you get put in the position, I found myself watching instead of wanting to wave the flag. I was like, oh, that foul happened right in front of me. I didn't put my flag up. But the guys look pretty good. There was a good bunch of people. The thing is, them performing at the combine and then them coming into preseason and finding a way into the team is kind of the deciding factor. But if they highlight themselves at the combine, a lot of them did look very good. And I'm hoping those guys are the ones that got invited to preseason. So we'll see if I had the same eye as the coaches.
I'm curious because you said, you had some, I won't say difficulty, but you had some lapses as a ref. Will that give you any empathy for the refs whenever you're there during the season, or do you think you're still going to give them a lot of crap if you think they get the call wrong?
No, they're getting the same amount of crap because that is their job. They're getting paid for it to do it. I was doing it as a charity.
Awesome. You mentioned this is your fourth year, so you're basically a veteran of the squad now. I'm curious, what advice would you give new guys, both sort of new pros who are fresh out of college? We already know there's a couple of guys that are signed right out of college, but there might also be, some existing pros that this is going to be their first time in a Bob Lilly system. So if those guys are walking into the locker room, what sort of tips do you think you'd give them?
I would say to be open-minded, to be versatile, able to listen and be coached. Bob is a very demanding person, but he's also very straightforward with what he wants and how he wants you to play. And each position varies. So if he's asking a certain position to do something very specific that the player didn't do in that moment, then the next time the ball comes to you there and it's a similar situation, see if you apply that. So yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing is like if you made it this far and you've gone through college or you've played pro and this is your first time with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and a preseason or just learning a new system, it's you gotta be able to gel and mesh and adapt to whatever situation's thrown. You have to be open minded to be able to learn and play because you have all the raw materials. It's just is it gonna work with this team? Are you able to mesh with these players? Are you able to be a part of the system? So that I think that's the biggest part is just being able to mesh.
Yeah. You've appeared in 80 matches for the club, which means you're only 20 away from that, vaunted 100 game mark. When you started, did you ever think that you'd be in this position where you'd play, 100, at least 100 games for a club? And what does that mean to you?
I think hearing that it's crazy how fast it's flown by. Um, Started in my fourth year. I mean, it doesn't seem like that much, and then when you put it into perspective, where it's 80 games, I'm like, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Um, but no, from being me, I went to the combine. I went here on trial, and my rookie year it was full of ups and downs. We had an older group that year, so I was very young compared to everyone else, and I didn't always get the opportunities. I got opportunities, but I didn't always play. Um, so no, I never thought that I would be here fourth year, more of a leadership role, almost a veteran guy playing multiple positions. No, I never thought I would be here, or at least with this team and seeing how much I've grown and matured and how much experience I have now. It's nice to see.
Yeah, listen, we're glad to have you, man. You mentioned earlier sort of the team bringing back a bunch of guys, specifically the defense. It feels like we're bringing back more of a unit than we have in the past. You, Suber, Asumanu, Dick, you also have Randolph back there. What does having that base to sort of build from mean to you as a person and as a player?
Um, it's nice to know that we have a good foundation. Funny enough, when in 2023 when we won the Players Shield, we had one of the best defenses in the league, and last year we actually had a better defensive record than the year before.
Mhm.
So I think keeping those core guys or being able to stay that consistent, no matter who the personnel is, um, it says leaps and bounds about what we are capable of. Um, but it's easier just to be on the same page as everyone, to feel comfortable, to know what you're going to get, and then it's also just easier to coach new guys through what we're looking for and how we want to play. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's comforting knowing that we're not going to put in as much groundwork. We can just keep building on what we already had and keep moving upwards.
Last year, you spent some time playing both sort of center back and wing back. You and I talked, and you had said at the time that you're a bit more of a fan of the wing back position. You like to get forward a little bit more, get into the attack a little bit. I'm just curious, has there been any discussion with Bob about where he may want to use you this season yet?
Yeah, we've had some discussions. For me, I mean, last year the plan was for me to play wingback all year, and then I got put in the very first game of the year at halftime, and I just stayed there all year. So this year, I think really anything could happen. From preliminary discussions, the plan is for me to move more back out wide to a role. But I think that is can easily change I think you never know what's going to happen in a season, and I think that I've shown that I'm capable of playing both. So whatever comes, I'll be ready for.
You guys have your first preseason game next weekend in Columbus. How are you feeling about things?
We did that 2 years ago, and it was I liked it. I think especially for trialists coming in, where they're going to be getting a lot of minutes, and what better way to see how a guy is going to perform by just throwing them into the wolves.
Yeah.
One of the best teams in the MLS, one of the most possession based, good at ball movement, good at moving off each other, and I think with our system, it's a lot of get in your face, suffocate, full press, and those two don't always match up well. So no matter how the game is leaning, you're going to want to see how players react, how players adapt, if players can still listen in this high pressure situation. So I think it's very exciting. Why would you not want to start off playing against the best? I think it's a good way to see where you stand and where you can grow, and also just seeing individuals' resilience. So that's very exciting.
Love it. Lots of changes coming in 2025. There's going to be new turf, potential stadium expansion. Obviously, there's going to be a new team with the Riveters. You guys are going to have the Jägermeister Cup. What are you most looking forward to heading into the season?
I mean, every year, we're always looking for to get some sort of silverware, to fight for championships, to win games. So I think I'm most excited just to be back and competing, and we have 3 different competitions that we can win things in. Obviously, I think the league is always top priority, but Jägermeister Cup, Open Cup, these are all things that we can establish ourselves and have a bit of history. But I will also say I'm very excited about the jerseys. I had an opportunity to see them yesterday and to try them on, and they will be getting released soon enough. But I really, really do like them this year, and we're going to go back a little bit to the past and where we came from.
Oh, dang. All right.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
not expecting a little teaser there. That's great.
I really did like them. Yeah, I love them.
That's awesome. Last question. We'll get you out of here. This is going to feel completely unrelated, but asking for a friend. Do you have a favorite cookie?
I did see that. And honestly, I would say my favorite cookie, it would be just keeping it simple, keeping it original, just chocolate chip, but a good chocolate chip. And I like them a little more soft.
Perfect. Luke, listen, man, I always appreciate the time. Thanks again for taking time out of your preseason. Best of luck with the rest of the preseason. Have fun in Columbus. And yeah, man, hope all goes well and we talk again soon.
Sounds good. Can I ask one question?
Sure.
This Bushy versus Rob Vincent in the back, what's the story here?
So we had Bushy on already so far this year, and he mentioned that him and Rob sort of give each other crap each time they're sort of they come on the show. Mm-hmm. And so they are unofficially keeping track. So I said, we'll just start officially keeping track. Rob has a bit of an advantage because we had him on when he was still a player. So one of those is from a while ago. Okay. But now each time they come on, we'll put a little tick mark behind us and
I'm rooting for Vincent. I hope Bushy loses. But yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a good chat.
I am joined now by Steve Mattias, Josh Brokaw, and Peter Betcher. Welcome, gentlemen. Peter, we're going to get to why you're here in a minute. But first of all, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Just any other recent graduate can be. Just going day by day, just part-time job and whatnot. I'm doing pretty well.
Recent graduate, like air quotes, celebrity. You're making the rounds on Houndsy. Now you're here. You're just all over the place.
Quite celebrity. I mean, it's great that the whole support section basically knows who I am and the whole Riverhounds front office. But yeah, light caveat to the term celebrity here.
Say, Mike, are we that popular that we make celebrities now?
No. No. Steve, what's new with you?
Not much. Long week. Rory got a little sick, so been taking care of him, but he's doing much better. So we got to go out for a walk today with a friend. I don't know if you guys have ever had Jax's Bakery. He comes to the Swickley Farmers Market. I think it's Bulgarian pastries.
Yeah.
They are fantastic. And so my friend had to run an errand down in the city, and so she knows I really like that. So she picked up a couple. So before we had our walk, we got to have some tea and pastries, and that made for a fantastic afternoon.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Josh, anything new with you? It sounds like you might have been chatting it up with the front office a little bit recently.
Yeah, Steel Army had our I wouldn't say annual because we do it more than once a year, but we had a meeting with Jeff to try and go over the coming season, Riveters stuff and Riverhounds stuff, and like plans with the Steel Army and any collaborations we can do, that kind of stuff. So it's always nice to kind of like get level set with the front office, and we also just, the Steel Army just had a survey go out. Check all the social medias, you'll find it, and we've gotten a lot of responses actually.
Awesome.
So it's been great to actually go through that and kind of see what everyone is thinking and wanting, and I'm glad we did it right before that meeting because we were able to actually bring up some of the concerns, because sometimes supporters, or really just any fans, they see our survey, they start responding to the things that we have no control over, like like front office stuff for the Riverhounds. It's like,
Make the tickets cheaper.
yeah, it's like parking's expensive. It's like, well, cool. I don't know what you want the Steel Army to do about that, but so turns out we did have something we could do. We could talk to the front office a little bit, but that does not mean parking's gonna be cheaper, because it's not going to be cheaper. But at least your voice is a little heard.
I'm curious, like a little inside baseball here, and you could say, let's not talk about it. But do you ever go into that, like having a request for the team where you're like, I don't think they're going to say yes. So like you sort of have like moonshot things that you're like, well, is there like a negotiation that happens there? Or like, how does that work?
I wouldn't say it ever feels like a negotiation. What is nice, especially like, well, first off, I've been around now for, over 10 years and have seen the front office trade hands many of times. So each front office is a little bit different. Lately, though, the front office, these have been a lot more kind of just letting them know what we're planning on doing, and them letting us know what they're planning on doing, and then kind of like see if there's any intersection there, or like us informing them and them informing us of like maybe changing their plans a little bit, or us changing our plans a little bit. As just far as like being on the same page and knowing what's going on. So it never feels like we're like negotiating for things to change. It's more like, hey, have you thought about doing this instead? And then, them telling us why they do it the way they do it, and why we do it the way we do it, and kind of like just info sharing, pretty much.
Cool. Yeah. Well, good. Welcome, guys. We did just have the Biasi interview. Josh, I know I just finished with you, and now you're taking a drink, but I was going to start with you. Were any takeaways or any thoughts from what Luke had to say?
I thought it was kind of interesting, the part where he was talking about the trainees coming in, or like the combine, and it just, I didn't expect Biasi to be like, having this like coach sound to him when he was like, oh yeah, like they come in and this is how they are, and it'll be interesting to see how they perform in an actual match and that kind of stuff. I was like, I don't know. It's one of those things where you kind of always see these players go into a little bit of coach mode as they progress in their career, and like just becoming more of a teacher as well as a player, which is, it's nice to see. And I kind of shows maturity coming into it and growth.
Yeah. Peter, any takeaways?
I mean, yeah, when it comes to the combine, I just love getting insight onto that. It's like, I don't know, they keep a little bit of like a hush hush around the combine because we don't know who's attending. And I mean, it's great to hear that they liked what they saw, and that, it's just one of my caveats when it comes to the USL. I wish we could have some more like openness to the combines, and wish who knows there, but it's the way it is, and I like it. So. Yeah. Also, I didn't know he'd be a chocolate chip cookie guy. I thought he'd be more of a snickerdoodle person.
See, now that's an interesting conversation. If you could assign each player a cookie, like who would be which cookie? We might have to save that for another time. But
that's the next article.
That's right.
I have someone you can interview. I actually have two people. I don't know if you Williams, Tammy. She's the one that makes the team cookies every single home game. She's been doing it for a couple of years, and her and Liz are actually going to collab this year to both make cookies. That way, it's a little bit less of a task to make that many cookies every single home game. But it's hilarious. Yeah, there's some stories about who really loves cookies and who will go out of their way to steal said cookies, and maybe the team doesn't see all of those cookies. Yeah, Mr. Forbes. So yeah, there's an article there for sure.
The friend air quote that I was asking for was Liz. I didn't say that, but I was like asking for Liz. Yeah. Steve, any takeaways from what Luke had to say?
Man, him entering his 4th year is mind-boggling to me. Like, I feel like he just started, but then I think back of the time he's been here, and he was playing regularly when the Hounds went to Cincinnati, and I remember like giving him a big hug at that game afterwards, and you could tell he was wrecked. Yeah. Professional tackle. Professional something foul is what I said to him, and he cracked a smile, but he was having a hard time. Gave me a big hug.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, just really quickly, we played Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup. Cincinnati, whose payroll is probably 50 times ours. Their fans were being obnoxious, and Biasi basically chased down a player from behind and literally just tackled him to keep him from scoring.
Yep.
And the Cincinnati fans were just totally enraged and thought he should go to jail. And we were all there just laughing and having a good time.
And this is after they've sent one of our players off with an injury that kept him out for quite a few weeks, right? So it's not like it wasn't a chippy game to begin with, and they weren't playing aggressively either. It's just I think it as well. You talked a little bit about this already, but just that maturity that you see in him after a few years, and how much he's grown, right? Like, I remember when he came, he looked young. He looked out of college, and watching him in the interview, just like, oh yeah, he's not that young guy anymore. He's still young, but he's not that fresh faced newbie anymore to the team. You can tell he's had some experience and he knows what he's talking about. And so that's a lot of fun. It's fun to see these guys start to grow up as they enter their careers. So I really enjoy that as you see these players year after year.
Yeah. I can tell you, even just from the time that I talked to him, you can go back to last season's episode. I felt that there was a change in sort of how he talked and his demeanor and the conversations that we had off air. You grow up pretty quick in the USL. So yeah, good for him. The one thing that I legitimately was surprised about was him mentioning the kits. I'm just curious. His exact phrase was "back to the past where we came from." And he mentioned how much he loved the kits. Peter, you're a bit of a design guy. Do you have any guesses as to what you think we might see based on that hint? I didn't want to ask any further. I knew he would probably tell us, and then we'd have to cut it from the show. So I let it be. But do you have any thoughts, Peter, what you think we might see?
It's only going to be 2 options. It's either going to be hoops, or it's going to have that vertical stripe that we had on the side for the Miracle on the Mound. So that's the only 2 options I can think of.
Yeah, my hope is hoops. I think that has to mean hoops. As far as what most people think of as far as traditional for the Hounds, I know we started out actually with the sash kind of thing, like the vertical stripe. Not really sash, just a vertical stripe. But I don't see that being what they're referring to. I think it's probably going to be a return to the hoops of some sort. I don't know. I'm sure it won't just be boring hoops. They'll do something to jazz it up a little bit. But yeah, I'm thinking hoops.
Steve?
So I just got done saying how much I've seen Luke grow and how he's been here for a little while. But the reality is my favorite hoops kit was the kit that they had his first year in Pittsburgh, which was the one with the black back, not the yellow black back. And so I think that one was just super sharp. And so there's a part of me that wonders, is his limited memory part of his statement of back where we came from and something before that? I'm sure he knows about them, but he's not as familiar with them as something he wore 17 times a season or something like that, right? So I really hope we have something that looks that sharp again with some hoops. So
I had a look at old kits to make sure I was remembering right. Yeah, so we've had hoops since 2018. So going far back, I guess that's not super far back, but yeah, the hoops I believe started in 2018 and continued on for many years, and then I think it was just last year
that's the 2018 right there.
Yeah. Before
the
that,
slight chevrons. Yeah.
Before that, we had the single black stripe across the kit in like 2016. But yeah, I'm trying to find 2017. I don't know if we just didn't have a new one come out in 2017, but that's as far back as far as like hoops adjacent goes, I could find.
I am wondering what the River kids would be like. That's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering about.
Yeah, because it sounds like they're all going to be different. So we shall see. I think I agree with you guys. I think based on Luke's history, I feel like it's going to be hoops. It felt like there was a lot of feedback from fans that they like the hoops. I'm not like I could take the hoops or leave them. I feel like hoops is almost a Tampa thing, but
Go ahead.
and Louisville does them too. I know. But whatever. I'm happy to. I did not like the bridge jersey, and I like the bridge jersey, so I'm happy to just kind of defer to you guys on that. What will be interesting is if obviously the Riveters are introducing red. If by traditional, and I don't think this is the case, but if by traditional the Hounds don't start to introduce some blue, like with the black and gold, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Wait, the Hounds used to wear blue?
Yes.
The Hounds have worn red and blue.
Yeah.
Okay. I like black and yellow, man. Yeah.
No, to your point, Mike, I would love to see some trim details that give some throwback to stuff like that. I don't want to see a lot of blue, but something around the sleeves. Right. Like, I've got my Chelsea flag over there, whatever. Like, I care a heck of a lot more about the Hounds. But I would like to see some things that reference that history going into the next quarter century of the Hounds now that we're through the first quarter. So
I would be a little bit worried about introducing red at this point because it would kind of bleed too much into the Riveters territory. Mm-hmm. I feel like red's going to be a pretty, not dominant color, but a very, well-used color for the Riveters. I don't really want the Hounds to start introducing red to their kits as well because I feel like that would be kind of like the Riveters thing. And blue, I do think blue works, especially with the state or the city flag having blue in it. And the fact that we used to wear blue as our dominant color right before 2013. But yeah, I guess technically if they want to go all the way back to the beginning, they would have to introduce red, which no, thank you.
Yeah, agreed. So just some interesting stuff. Always great to talk to the guys, especially Luke. Really good conversation. So really glad he was able to join us this week. Guys, Peter, let's dive into why you're here. So the big news is, I guess if you're on social media, then you may have seen this already, but we now have a Mongols Substack. So Peter, let's talk about it. First of all, for all of us octogenarians, is that the right phrase? I don't even know. I don't think so. I'm using that completely wrong.
Isn't that like 80?
Yeah.
Jeez, Mike.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, that was a low blow. Peter, tell people what Substack is.
Substack is a website where people can make their own blog essentially and, share content, whether it's articles, podcasts, you name it. Even just little notes about basically little tweets, if you will, just around whatever they want. USO Tactics does a great job with their Substack. So I thought with what we're going to do with the Riverhounds and Riveters, I think it would be cool to have even more content around them. So hence why I am starting the Mongols Substack and contributed.
Yeah. So Peter has already written 3 articles, and the plan is to release 1 article a week. Now, what's interesting is so when I say 1 article, I mean 1 article written by Peter. And I want to get into Peter, sort of your thoughts on the first 3 and sort of your approach and all of that so people know what to expect. But because we now have this as a vehicle, it could be interesting as another way for us to share additional content that we're putting out there. Obviously, once the seasons get started, it feels like we're doing a show almost every day. We're doing 5 or 6 shows a week. Rather than you trying to hunt for them on social media or whatever it may be, maybe we put some of those on Substack as well, and you get them via email. So if you really just like the main show, then there could be one way that you get that. And then if you want all the additional content, maybe we put that on Substack and you get it straight to your inbox or something like that. But Peter, you posted 3 articles just to sort of get things started and get people interested. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on them thus far. Tell us the 3 topics, and then Josh and Steve, I'm interested in your thoughts. You guys can sort of pick whichever one you want to talk about when you talk about it.
Okay, so the first one I would like to talk about is how basically when it comes to Riveters, everyone knows that there's going to be a next step, and it seems like the Super League is going to be the main obvious target, but I was kind of adding for the fact, or I guess campaigning, if you will, that they should at least try to go for the NWSL just because that is the league as where it's at. And the Super League, like as much as I like it and it's ambitious, it does have some flaws. And I did talk about that. And for the other article, that was mainly just like, hey, I have some ideas from the USL when it comes to just rules and little things they could try out. I saw some, I guess, linear, comparisons, if you will, between the ABA from the 70s, which merged into the NBA, to the USL and what it is currently. As for the Hounds content, that was just, hey, look, Iron City made a beer about us last year, and they're continuing it, and I haven't tried it yet. So, yeah, I'm just glad that's back, and it seems like it's been something that has kind of been rotating around the Hounds, and now we have something stable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I love about sort of this approach and using Substack for this is that oftentimes when we get together, we're reacting to something that has happened on the field, and it's very just sort of like one track. How did this player do? But you're sort of like dancing around the edges and giving hot takes on things that like maybe I don't even agree with, but I feel that it's like a provocative topic that I'm like, oh, it makes me think about it in a completely different way. So I really appreciate that and expanding the conversation about the Hounds and the Riveters and the USL, and it's really cool. Steve, you had a chance to see all of the articles. Was there anything in there that you either disagreed with or like jumped out at you that you liked?
Okay, so I loved the NWSL suggestion. I love the suggestion. Pragmatically, I don't think it'll happen. But it made me start thinking, okay, like what can I find about Tuffy's net worth, right? And what can I find about what the differences in levels are? So it pushed me to go do a little bit of research and think a little bit more about some things that have probably been on the periphery of my thoughts, but not things I've necessarily been thinking about. So I have no idea what Tuffy's net worth is. I'm coming across random websites that I don't know if they're reputable or not that say his construction company may be worth at a little under $20 million. But I don't know if that's true, right? Like no idea. But it gives me a sense of kind of why I love the idea of the NWSL, but don't think we'll ever see it, is because I just don't think Tuffy has the money to do that. And I doubt Tuffy is going to bring in somebody else that is going to have that much money and be able to, that doesn't want majority ownership of the team, right? And so I think we'll see the team in the Super League eventually. But if there's a way to get into the NWSL, I think you make a great case for why that's the better league.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my reaction to that one as well, is anytime someone makes the NWSL argument, I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like in my mind, I'm like, it's not going to happen. But you did lay out the case in a way where I was like, oh, but that could be cool. Like that could be interesting if it happens. So I really appreciate that approach. And like I said, opening minds. Josh, was there anything that you saw that you liked or disliked?
No, I disliked. So kind of talking about the Substack as a whole and what we're doing, it really reminds me of why I got into doing the podcast to begin with. Even before Mongols, I was doing a podcast about USL as a whole, kind of like the USL show, the Procast, for a website called Reckless Challenge at the time, which is no longer a thing, hasn't been a thing in over 10 years. But the whole idea was, if you don't see the media being covered, or like news sites or anything like that, or websites anywhere covering USL, make it yourself. And this, I feel like, is kind of along those lines. We are seeing more coverage from mainstream media and like different websites and local publications, but still it's pretty sparse, and it is kind of more surface level about, just recapping the game or telling us what the scores were, which is things we already know. So to be able to have something like this where it kind of goes deeper into it, or covers things that might not necessarily be the prerogative of a regular news website when it comes to Hounds. Like the whole article about Hounds Pale Ale, I thought was really fun, and it was something that, like, I'm not going to see that article anywhere. So it's very niche, but it's my niche, so I was happy to read it. And yeah, I don't know, I just really like that approach, and us kind of finding another avenue to widen the conversation about the Hounds.
We said years
niche. Oh, sorry, it is a bit niche, but I mean, Yeah, I mean, I just want to give the fan base even more content besides my photos, obviously. Yeah, it's great that I could offer that, and thank you guys for the feedback. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, the end of itself is probably not going to happen, but might as well try, right?
But here's the thing. We've said from the start with this that originally our tagline used to be something about like the water cooler in which people like hang out and talk about the Hounds.
Yeah.
And I think that this is just another piece of broadening that conversation beyond just here's what's happening on the field, which I think that, you know, casual fans want to talk about what's happening on the field. Diehards are in the weeds talking about things like what could happen 10 years from now, or, you know, what are they doing with, like, why Charlie, what is going on with Charlie? Like, what normal people wouldn't care, but like the diehards really want to get in and have those conversations. So I think you writing about this, I think people coming to us with ideas about stuff like this, it's all great. Let's have that conversation, and let's have it in a way that if you are a diehard and you want to consume this stuff, it's easy for you to be a part of it. And there's sort of a channel and a pathway for you to get it.
Yeah.
So,
and one of the things I really liked about the Hounds Pale Ale one is that's the type of thing that we might touch on live on air, but to have the thought and to do some of the comparisons of they could give, was it 4 to 6 beers to everybody in the stands and still have a few thousand left over? Right? Like that's not the type of thing we're going to talk about on the podcast. And the other thing I just love about it is I think some of your takes are hot takes. And I like that because you're going to get some reactions where people are like, what the heck are you saying, Peter? Heck no. But that's fun, right? Because it does get that conversation going, and people are gonna latch on to some of those things and be like, he's out of his mind. That's a good thing, and I love it.
Yeah, I don't mind being the Stephen A. Smith with USL. I absolutely love it.
There's a reason I didn't talk about the USL can learn from the ABA article. I'm joking.
Hey, man, I'm just saying, stoppage clock would be cool because I don't want to wait around and be like,
blasphemy.
7
Moving
minutes.
on.
Well, okay, so before we move on from this real quick, if you want to be part of Substack, if you want to follow us on Substack, there is an app. You can download Substack and just search for Mongols. You can go to Substack, search for Mongols. You can sign up to be basically join the email list, and basically anytime a new publication comes out, you'll get it directly to your email. So anytime Peter writes something, it'll go out. And like I said, we might start adding some of this additional content that we're creating. I may or may not be going to practice tomorrow, and so whether or not the stuff that we gather from that may go into the Substack as well. So just keep that in mind. If you're sort of a diehard, the Substack might be the way to get and be part of a more in-depth conversation moving forward.
Yeah.
Would you like a photographer to come with you, Mike?
Potentially, we will talk.
Okay,
We'll see. Yeah. So that's the plan. Well, wait, real quick. Peter, now I'm completely forgetting. When did we say that each article was going to come out? Saturday? Moving forward?
Saturday.
Yeah. So releasing on Saturday, there'll be a new article. We figured that fills a good gap, especially once the season starts, because we tend to have shows all week. But then Saturday, there's kind of nothing before the game. We have sort of our prediction show that you can listen to Friday. But if you listen to it Friday, you don't have anything for Saturday before the games. Now you'll have an article. It might be related to game. It might be related to the USL. It might just be related to the River. Who knows? But yeah, just more content and more conversation to be had. So welcome, Peter. Guys, 2 other bits of news before we get out of here. One, the Hounds announced that they added a preseason match against Duquesne to the schedule. So Saturday, February 8th at 2 p.m. at Highmark. If there is wintry weather, that could be moved to Montour. So Peter, thoughts on the Hounds playing Duquesne in the preseason?
I wonder what I'm going to say as an alumni of Duquesne. I just love that move. And if it's at Highmark, I am going to find a way to get in there. I know my boys on the men's soccer team, so hopefully I could come with. But yeah, they're nationally ranked. They're going to be a good opponent. And yeah, it's better than Pitt.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's a typical take from most of our Duquesne alumni on the Steel Army as well.
I know the rule. We're a little better. I know.
I guess, Josh, any sort of thoughts about just adding another game to the schedule?
I mean, yeah, that was one of our complaints about when they announced the preseason schedule, which it felt a little bit light, or just kind of seemed a little bit light. And this pads another game on there, so takes care of that a little bit more. Also, it's so early that I do feel like it maybe we will see them weed out more trialists earlier than before. So that's also nice to see, just kind of like getting that final lineup nailed down sooner rather than later.
Yeah. We talked a little bit I talked a little bit with Luke about the fact that the guys are going to go and play in Columbus. So that game will happen before the Duquesne game. Luke shared his thoughts on Columbus. I guess, Steve, preseason's here, man. Like, before we talk again, we will have had a preseason game against Columbus. We've talked about how, I'm not expecting a ton of news. It'll probably be a closed door kind of thing. We won't know who played in it. From your perspective, is there anything in particular that you're going to look for or you're going to hope to see from what the team has to say about the game?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot, actually. And I'm hoping this is not a simulation of a game preseason encounter. I'm hoping this is one of those times where they play like three 30-minute halves or something like that, which they've done in the past. And I think they've done with Columbus in the past, so that Bob can trot out some trialists and get a good evaluation against them, so he can put together some guys that are likely going to be guys that he's going to be looking to as first choice subs throughout the season. And so he can put out who our projected starters are all together in a cohesive manner to get everybody some time and some more real game-like situations. That's really what I hope to see from this, that this does not need to be the one where we're going out and we're trying to beat Columbus. We've already done that in a much more meaningful situation. So let's go out and actually do things that prepare us for the rest of preseason and build towards what I've been asking for years, which is start the season strong. And I think that helps us get there by doing that.
Josh, any hopes and dreams for this one?
No, I really like the shout about it being like a real, like with the 30 minutes. I do think that even if Columbus is playing like third string or trialist or something like that, like if anything, that actually might make it more tough because those players have something to play for. Even though it's a preseason game, they're not just practicing. It's literally like I could be getting a pro contract or not. So you got to imagine they're going to be performing, and the same for the Hounds. Like I expect that we'll have many trialists at this as well, and they're also in the same boat where like, hey, if I don't get this, I don't have a pro contract. So it's always interesting because you think of preseason, you think of it being kind of a simple, just kind of going through the motions for some players, but it really is a big deal for a lot of these players. So yeah, I think it'll be a tough one, and I'm really sad that we're not going to know anything that happened because it's going to be behind closed doors and we'll never hear anything about it. So, oh well.
Yeah. Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to other USL preseason schedules, I wish we could have just one more MLS team, maybe just play Philly. I don't know, but I know they're in Florida, so more expenses and whatnot. But yeah, as when it comes to the preseason, I'm happy with the schedule and I'm happy with the way things were going to turn out. But yeah, I mean, like Steve said, we beat Columbus in a meaningful game, so it's great that we get to do it again and behind closed doors.
I love being a fan, and we could just be like, "Yeah, we beat Columbus. They're old hat. It's fine. Whatever. We're doing them a favor on this one. They don't,
when no one.
I mean, I've seen the Hounds lose in an Open Cup game in Columbus. I know Josh was at that game too. It's happened more than once, and so we're going to take that win at home and milk it for everything that it's worth and feel good about it especially when the season is not going on.
Yeah, until Columbus beats us again, we're going to keep talking.
As we should. Guys, one other bit of news is just that the Riveters have added defender Sydney Lineman to the roster. She is another RDA grad, and she went to Franklin Regional. She now attends Townsend University. It's interesting because every time they kind of announce a new Riveters player, if they are a local grad, they tend to throw out where they're from. And it will be interesting to see how much that plays into the fandom of the team, because here you have Sydney, who I think she was a redshirt freshman, so not long out of Franklin Regional. And so how many other people in Murraysville are going to know Sydney personally that are going to be like, oh, she came from here. She grew up here. Now she's playing for the Riveters. Like, we should go check her out. Like, that in and of itself, there is a connection between the communities and the team in a way that we've yet to see with the Hounds, aside from somebody like Robbie Mertz. Like, Robbie Mertz's whole family shows up. But, like, are there people who grew up and went to high school with Robbie that are showing up because they know? I don't know. But it's just every player that seems to be announced, it's like from Franklin Regional or Fox Chapel or wherever. This could be big, like really, really big. So I don't know.
No,
you guys have been good.
Yeah, no, lots of thoughts on that. In the sense that it makes the excitement for the Riveters even more, I think, in the region. For me, it's exciting to see these players come back after they finish in the RDA. And this is not to detract from what I think is exciting about the Riveters, but it makes me clamor for a men's USL2 team where they're starting to do similar things, because I think the excitement of seeing that and building that type of culture, kind of the opposite direction of where we think the Riveters are going, of starting in the semi-pro and building towards the pro. Well, now I want to see the semi-pro on the men's side too, and start building some of those relationships and have a cohesive system on both men's and women's sides, and make it more exciting, and more soccer at Highmark is always a good thing. So,
so you just said something that made something click in my mind, Josh. I'm curious your thoughts. Do you think even when the Riveters do take the next step to either the NWSL or the Super League, do you think the Riveters would still exist as a USLW team?
I do. I think maybe what we'll see is something more like they start playing at Montour, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we'll see both playing at Highmark. I do think there'll be a little bit more of a, transition in that aspect, but I could totally see there being a more complete track from RDA to pro, and it kind of being along those lines where you're a Riveter all the way through and through. Obviously college kind of throws a little bit of a wrinkle in like our traditional thought of what that looks like for an academy to pro system, because in Europe it's very different than it is here. There is that college track that that has to happen for a lot of these players, and it should, I think, because a lot of times it is, getting them ready for other than soccer because they can't play soccer their whole lives, and they can't, retire off the earnings from soccer. So it is a good idea in that aspect. But I would love to see it be a full track of going from academy to semi-pro to pro. And I hope that's something that the Rivers are on their way of doing and kind of pioneering that for Pittsburgh.
Peter, I'm going to give you the final thought on this. Thoughts on Riveters, thoughts on Sydney, thoughts on anything.
Yeah, I mean, I am definitely going to do some digging when it comes to how the Riverhounds Academy Group, or I guess development group, RDA, compares to the other USL teams when it comes to like Indy, Detroit. I would just love to do some digging around there. And when it comes to the Riveters becoming a Super League team, I don't see why they can't play at Highmark like at some games. And when it comes to having a USL2 team, obviously I'm going to love that. Steel City FC is going to start a USL2 team. The only thing I would like to do, though, is that we could call them the River Puppies. That's all I'm going to ask.
Vetoed.
It's right there, man. Come on.
I feel like that's an article waiting to be written.
I was saying that's a hot take for you. Take it to Substack.
That is your gentle reminder to go sign up for Substack and be part of all of those conversations.
Mongols.substack.com.
There you go. Yeah, Josh, thank you for throwing that out there. Guys, that you guys want to talk about on this one?
I think I'm good.
I'm great here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining me. As always, thank you, Luke, for joining as well. As we mentioned, go over to Substack, subscribe to what Peter's got going on there. Like I said, we might start putting some of the shows over there as well. But yeah, we appreciate everybody for watching, listening, joining. Share your thoughts. Let us know what to think. You guys know how to get a hold of us, mongols3@gmail.com. Otherwise, we're currently all over the socials. And thanks, everybody. We will be back with more Hounds and Riveters content very, very soon.
Later.
See ya.
Go Hounds.